Today we're going to cover our very last topic for the semester, which is protecting yourself against fraud. And when we think about fraud, a lot of this is going to be also thinking about identity theft, which is a real concern. So fraud is just going to be whenever another person tries to deceive you, trick you, maybe even steal your information for their own personal gain. And so they could do this by through identity theft, through taking or getting access to your bank accounts, to your credit cards, debit cards, anything like that. So whenever fraud does happen, and they're using your name or they're using kind of trying to pretend to be you in order to purchase things, you could potentially have a criminal record underneath your name that you didn't actually commit. You may have damaged your financial security because they've had access to your emergency savings or your checking account. Maybe they damaged your credit because they had access to your credit cards. Or, and then all of these things lead to stress. So you might just have compromised health because you're really stressed out about trying to handle these situations where you may be potentially in some sort of legal trouble, or you may have to figure out how to earn back all that money. The two main types of fraud are going to be identity theft. So whenever they use your information without permission, and then through communications. So through maybe mail, email, internet, telephone, something like that. So you may get an email, a text, a phone call, something like that, where they're asking you to maybe donate money to support something. They may kind of a really good example that used to happen quite frequently was you may get an email from somebody who claims to be a prince in a different country whose money is tied up, and all they need for you is to wire them $100, and then they'll give you $1,000 in return or something like that. When we think about fraud, we also think about credit. So people might apply for credit or change your current credit score by pretending to be you. They may be fraud in investments. So investors may be trying to deceive you and pretending to be financial advisors when they really don't have the experience to be claiming this. And that sometimes gets us into what we call a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, where they try to get money from you in hopes that you'll invest it, or saying that they'll invest it when they really don't. And then tax fraud. People may call you and tell you that if you pay for this certain program, you may be exempt from paying your taxes. And that's just a way for them to earn money. You are never exempt from paying your taxes. So how can fraud impact us? We know it can cost us money. We know that it can cause stress and cause anxiety. It can even cause, those potential legal issues. It can cost us time. We're going to skip through this activity, actually. Alrighty, so how does fraud actually occur? We're all smart. We all know what's going on. So how do people really get themselves into a situation where somebody is defrauding them? And a lot of this comes from personal information. So somebody may have access to your name, they may have access to your address, your phone number, and all of that's pretty common, your birth date, pretty common information. But it's when they couple this information with some more secretive or more detailed personal information, like your social security number, driver's license number, bank account numbers, or credit card numbers, that people can defraud you. So they could have your name, they could have your phone number, they could have your birth date, and that might get them some really minor access into some bank accounts or something. But when you have your social security number, usually that's the fail-safe that a lot of companies will use to verify that you are the person that they're actually interacting with. So if I have your social security number, I could call your bank and transfer all your money to somebody else, or I could call and get your credit card switched over to me or something like that, because I have this extra personal information outside of just your name, phone number, birth date, that are the normal security questions that people ask. That's why we don't want to share any of that information. We never want to share our driver's license number. We never want to share our social security number. We want to always keep our bank account and our credit card numbers secret. So think about the personal information they could get from you if somebody just were to steal your purse or your wallet. They could have your driver's license, your debit card and credit cards. They may have your phone. They may have some other type of ID card to learn a lot about you. One thing that people used to do is a lot of people used to carry their social security rounds with them in their wallet. But then if your wallet's stolen, they now have your driver's license and your social security card and your debit cards. That's pretty much all of the personal information they would need in order to steal your identity and in order to defraud you and steal all of your money. So like I said, they a lot of times are going to get some of this personal information by stealing your purse, your wallet, maybe your backpack, wherever you might keep personal information. People might just look through your mail. If they see a piece of mail or a package that looks like it came from the government, they might take it so that they can earn a little bit more information about you. They may skim credit cards and debit cards. This happens a lot at gas stations. Thieves will put skimming devices on the card slot on a gas pump so that it will read and store your card information, and then they can take it off later, and now they have all of your important information that they need in order to steal your money in the future. So whenever you're getting gas, make sure that there is no extra additional piece on it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell, but make sure that there's nothing on the card slot on a gas pump. That could be a skimming machine. Phishing for personal information via email. Those are those emails where they're asking you for personal information. They may say that they have a job for you. All they need is the answers to these questions. They may say that it's from the IRS and they are trying to contact you about your taxes, and you just have to respond with these several pieces of information. Those are all phishing emails. And then finally, people can just hack a computer and install spyware. That's why it's important for us to have really good backup on our computer, really good firewalls, paying for that extra additional security, because as people get more skilled with computers, it can get easier and easier to hack those computers to gain some of that personal information. So some ways that we can protect ourselves. Again, just like we talked about in Unit 2, we're always better off as a community than we are by ourselves. So the government has some agencies that are designed to help protect us from fraud, but they can't monitor every single person in the United States. So they're really looking at the huge fraud where people are stealing hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. But they aren't going to be able to really monitor if somebody's taking $100, $200 out of your bank account. So we are mainly responsible for ourselves, while the government does have those agencies and organizations in place. The best way that we can avoid fraud is just to always look at our bank statements, always look at our credit card statements to see if there's any fraudulent activity going on, and just trying to be on alert and making sure that we are trying to protect ourselves. So don't have any extra pieces of personal information in your wallet, in your purse, in your backpack. Try to not respond to those phishing emails. Don't take calls from phone numbers that you don't know about, because they can try and trick you into giving away some personal information. So just always be alert that at any point in time, somebody may be trying to defraud you. So some ways we can protect that personal information, like I said earlier, do not ever carry your social security card with you, at least not on a regular basis. You may need it for one or two things if you start a new job or something, but don't keep that on you on a regular basis. On all of your cards, so your credit card and your debit card, don't just sign the back of it, but maybe put CID. If you write CID, then the waitress, the store clerk, anyone who is using your card to pay for something that you are purchasing should look on the back and see that you want to see the ID, so that they're going to match up the name with a ID for the person using it. That way, if somebody steals it, they shouldn't be able to use it very easily. Try to make more difficult PIN numbers. Don't use 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0000. Those are really easy to guess and for people to withdraw money from your account. Don't just throw out personal documents or legal documents in the regular trash, because believe it or not, people do go through trash to try and find that information. Maybe shred it, or at least black out some of those personal pieces like your social security card with a Sharpie or a dark marker. Use a lockbox or a safe for any important information that you have to keep. And just be careful of what's being posted on the internet, what's being posted on social media. Be careful. You don't need to put a picture of your driver's license or have any reason that a picture of your credit card should be in on social media, because people can zoom in, look at that card number, steal money from your account. And then again, like I said, we always want to check our reports. That way we can immediately dispute errors. The more quickly we can dispute any type of fraud, the more likely we are to get our money back. Anytime a source is asking for personal information, make sure that it is an actual, valid, reliable source, not something that is going to be a little bit fishier. And then always monitor your financial situation. Always know where your cards are. Always know where your bank statements are. Always maybe have an app on your phone so that you can look up and see how much money you have left so you can track your spending. And then be careful when you're using the internet, especially when you're online shopping, because online shopping is a really common place for people to try and steal credit card information or personal information. We want to always have updated spyware, malware, software, whatever we want to call it, on our computers. And we're going to skip through some of this information because we did cover it in our credit and debit units. We know that credit cards are more secure whenever we are online shopping or whenever we are there's potential fraud, because the maximum liability is usually about $50. Whereas debit cards, there is no maximum liability number. And just keep in mind that we are our best advocate for keeping ourselves and protecting ourselves from fraud. So we want to make sure that we are doing our best to make sure that nobody is using our personal information against us. Nobody is trying to steal our identity in order to open up accounts in our name or have legal implications in our name. And we want to make sure that we are monitoring our money. Some ways that we can recognize if fraud has been happening. Now that we know how to try and prevent it, we need to know what that looks like. So a lot of times you may be being defrauded if you have a business that you have paid to, you've maybe made payments or given them some money, and now they won't return your calls or your emails. That's usually a decent sign that that person or that business is not a very reliable company. If you check in your statements and you have charges that you don't remember making, if you apply for a credit card and you are denied, and there's no reason that you should be denied credit because you have a decent credit score, if you are waiting on a piece of mail and it just hasn't come, or if there are any errors on your credit report, those are reasons that we need to act immediately. We need to contact our credit card company, contact our bank, or maybe even contact the police if we have a good idea of how we are being defrauded. We know that if we have any of these key signs, we need to try and act immediately as quickly as possible. We need to keep a detailed written record. We don't want to rely just on verbal record. We want to rely on written record. That way, if we do have to get the law enforcement involved, we have documentation that shows all of the steps we went through. And then we can report it to those government federal agencies who can then back us up and help us. They're not monitoring our accounts like they might be for big, larger fraud pieces, but we can report our smaller examples of fraud to them, and they will help us if we need. So some of the government agencies that are going to try and help us protect us from fraud is going to be the Federal Trade Commission. And this is going to be preventing businesses from acting in deceptive or unfair ways. So the Federal Trade Commission tries to help protect us from businesses who might be trying to defraud us. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau tries to protect us from products and services. Federal Drug Administration protects our public health. And the Federal Communications Commission regulates the communication that is legal between states or between different countries. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is going to try and protect investors. So through investment fraud, we can be protected through this organization. The IRS is focused on the tax laws, so they try to protect us from those tax defrauding people and businesses. And then the FBI just protects us in general. So all of these different agencies, depending on the situation that we're in, might have a role to play in trying to protect us or back us up if we have been defrauded. And that is where our note guide ends.